I think we're live, people. Good evening, welcome to the Brews at 10 on my left eye. I'm your host Lefty. Thanks for joining me on the stream. Hope you're all having a wonderful week. Let's take a look and see who's first in the chat. Divinia, a very good evening to you. Hope you're all brewing nicely tonight. Morbius as well. And already a gifted membership as well from Morbius. Thank you very much for that. And that was actually very clever there. Divinia pointing out that membership had expired. That's really good. Nice shots. Solidari-Tea. And we've also got Nina Sadie, Emma Richardson, great to see you as well. Floor Snake, Chris, Doc Davies is in the house. You like a pie, do you, Doc? Just random pies? Why not? You're not from Wigan by any chance, are you? Okay, so I can see Edward Sexby just arrived. For a split second there, my brain went, "You're pronouncing that wrong." And I was like, "No, it's fine." A very good evening to you as well. I'm not too bad. Sorry I couldn't be with you on Wednesday. It totally didn't dawn on me that of course it's half term, so there would be no PMQs. I had everything sort of set up and ready to go, but didn't really have enough to sort of fill in for PMQs. But I've got a lot to talk about tonight, people, and I can see you've already been throwing up the Palestine flags and watermelons. Thank you very much for that. Lots to talk about where Gaza's concerned today. And you're not just going to be hearing my thoughts as well, you're going to be hearing from David, a good friend of mine, wonderful fellow, and also one of the protesters from Eurovision the other week, so I managed to catch up with him last night in Manchester, having been unable to get down to London last Saturday, of course, so I did promise exclusive content. And just like Postman Twat, I've delivered. Oh, no. I don't think I'm ever gonna... Obviously that was tongue-in-cheek, but I'm never going to use that word in my entire syntax, in my entire lexicon, the same way that politicians do. Every politician I hear an interview with now, it's like some sort of trigger now, because of the Keith's Catchphrases game. But of course he was defeated, was Postman Twats last week, so we'll be back on it next week anyway with PMQs, and we'll see if the new champion can defend his title for the first time with Noel, or was it Keith Edmonds' Deal being the new champion. Nina Sadie celebrating 2 months of membership, thank you very much for that. Also, Davinia getting the gifted membership meant you've been a member now for 11 months as well. That's great stuff. One of the very first members on the channel since I started streaming, so thank you very much, Nina Sadie and Davinia. And you've both been marvellous, fantastic, awesome supporters of the channel as well. Speaking of support for the channel, I know you've all hit the thumbs up button already, people. Can you dig it? Thanks a lot. If you've got the time, please do, or means, if you've got the means or the time, give us a share around your social media as well. Give us a follow on Blue Sky at MyLeftEyeUK, also available on Mastodon and Twitter. Oh, speaking of Twitter, always Twitter, never X. Elon Musk is officially out of US government now, isn't he? I might talk a little bit about that later on as well. I'll get on to the interview with David after I just pick up on a couple of relative points as well. In another live stream attempt at amazing segues between topics. Yes, Davinia, I think PMQs will be back next week. It's you know, I've mentioned this before, that it coincides with half term usually, when they're not in session. Obviously they'll say, oh, you know, we spend a lot of time with our families, but that possibly might go back to the days where the kids were so appallingly behaved that the butlers just refused to wait on them during the week while they're not at school, so that's why they have to take it off of the House of Commons. That's not actually the reason. For anyone who's up on parliamentary protocol and etiquette. No, so it should be back next week. Yes, Floor Snake, poor old Postman Twats. I will try and do this before next week's PMQs to go back and count how many episodes that Postman Twat was champion for. But it would have to be some time. There were a few draws along the way. There were a couple of very close shaves. I remember on one or two occasions Postman Twat being right behind and then making a late comeback. Anyway, that's for Wednesdays. We'll get onto that next week. The tangent alert. So I've mentioned ways to support the channel. You might also consider a membership. I'm very pleased to say, thanks to some very generous gifted memberships recently, that we've surpassed the 100 target and sustained now on 110 with Morbius's excellent Bullseye gifted membership at the top of the stream. So that is a record on the channel. Thank you very much for all your contributions. And just before this slips my mind, I want to make sure that I get this in, because this isn't exactly scripted. But tomorrow I'm actually going to be going to Manchester and bringing you some exclusive content. I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get on to David's interview. So some of that as well will be exclusive to members only. That's how it's relative. But thank you very much to everybody whose names you just saw there. And currently on 110 members. So thanks again for helping the channel reach that target. Fingers crossed people will renew and will stay above the 100 and then go beyond. And in no time I'll be setting a new target, perhaps 200 or 250 or perhaps a gajillion, I don't know. 100 billion members, which is several times the population of the planet. But there you go. You never know. People might have multiple accounts. That's a very interesting allegedly there, Edward, about Elon Musk's problem with his urinary tract. Perhaps he, you know, get a urologist on that one. Allegedly. That was 3 allegedlys, Your Honour. Just one moment, people. I've got to check that one of my bookmarks is functioning properly, because it's a tweet that I bookmarked that's just relevant to the first topic, so it wasn't loading up before. I just want to make sure that it's loading up now, and then we'll get cracking with things. I've got some light-hearted comedy coming your way first of all. Not homegrown, but a channel you'll be familiar with, and I imagine a fan of as well. Just give me 2 seconds. Oh yes, there we go. Marvellous. Check everything's in the right order. Okay, we're all good to go, people. Grab onto your brews, it's the broken news. How's about that?
Welcome to Broken News. Plans have been unveiled for an international competition which will decide on one billionaire to be killed and eaten on live TV. The new show is aimed at teaching the others a lesson, and our reporter has more.
For too long now, an extremely small number of hilariously rich people have been plundering natural resources, hoarding unimaginable wealth and getting fat off the backs of billions of working people. Well, now working people might be living off the fat backs of billionaires, as one of them is set to be killed and eaten. Yes, in a new game show, one of these tasty tycoons will be sacrificed as a warning to the others from humanity. In the glitzy new programme, a public vote will decide which of the parasitic Uber class is to face a righteous roasting by the rest of us. If the pilot is a success, future episodes will see more of the super rich cooked into popular dishes. Some suggested by the producers include billionaire shortbread, a Michael Bloom burger, Charles coq au vin, mushroom risotto, mixed grill gates, and a Mukesh Ambani biryani. But we think that last one might be a bit racist. Some Broken News viewers have been in touch to suggest that this report is just a tired excuse to get a load of terrible billionaire food puns into a sketch.
Oh, sorry to pause. This is a really good one, by the way, if you like your puns. Yeah, great stuff.
But it's actually making a very serious point indeed.
This
A
one.
Warren Buffet. That's one, isn't it?
Warren Buffet. Warren Buffet. Very good. Very good indeed.
Back to you.
A very serious message indeed. Oh, baked Bezos on toast! Is that a What a lovely story. That's all from Broken News. You're up to date.
Oh, yeah, do check them out and subscribe if you've not done so already. The Broken News from Larry and Paul. So Larry and Paul is the name of the channel if you want to check them out if you're not familiar. But I'm sure that most of you in the chat are. Warren Buffet. That's brilliant. Warren Buffett. Warren Buffet. Have you got any suggestions? Yeah, let me know. I know that you do like a good pun. Just adjust the logo because I've got you good people on the screen as well now. There we go. Zuckerburger. Zuckerburger. Zucker cheeseburger. If you prefer, perhaps vegan cheese. Have we had a raid? We've had a raid. Kevin Logan, thanks for another raid, brother. Yes, I heartily suggest, recommend, nay insist. Anyone who's not familiar with Kevin Logan, just open a new tab there, go and check him out. Solidari-Tea for that. Very warm welcome to anybody just joining us from Kevin Logan. We're just getting started, we just got warmed up with a comedy clip and saying our hellos, but it's great to have you joining us. Excuse me, great to have you joining us over from Kevin Logan as well. I didn't get a notification about that, which is kind of strange. There have been some strange goings on in the past, a few gremlins in the works, but it's great to have you all anyway. If you're not familiar with the channel, this is my left eye, weekday streams at 10 PM the Brews at 10. Just going to go over some recent stories in politics from a socialist point of view. And I've also got an exclusive interview which is coming up in a moment with a friend of mine who was one of the protesters at Eurovision. So you're just in time. Put the kettle on and we'll get cracking. Solidari-Tea. Oh yes, Odin, if you're going to be actually eating any politicians, we were just, for anyone who's just joined us, looking at Laurie and Paul's latest clips, where they're talking about having a contest or a vote on which billionaire to eat. Yeah. Whoever it is, hygiene definitely comes first, because these are some dirty MFs we're talking about, people. They don't call it filthy rich for nothing, do they? What was one of the latest stats I heard? I believe it was if you went back to the time that Jesus Christ was allegedly born and you made $100,000 a day, I think it was, then you still wouldn't have as much money as Elon Musk has currently, on paper, that is. But that could all come crashing down quite horrifically for him in a short amount of time, which I'm led to believe. But that's another subject for another time. Okay, people, are we ready for this interview? Have we all got brews? Are we good to go? I'll only make a couple of interjections. So this was in Manchester last night. Anyone who's from Manchester, particularly eagle-eyed, might be able to spot whereabouts. And yeah, this is David, who did a protest during Israel's performance at Eurovision last Saturday. Recently I've shared some footage that I took of him doing a great speech outside Shell headquarters in London as well, just across the road from Victoria Park there, where the London Eye is. And he's a great guy. He's also obviously very brave for taking that action. Going to hear more about that, as well as more about Youth Demand, who he did the action on behalf of course. And then I'll get on to what's going to be going down tomorrow. Alright, so please do enjoy. I'll be putting this out on a video over the weekend, but this is an exclusive first watch for my beloved Livestream viewers, because you're all so awesome.
Alright people, I'm here with David, who did an amazing action that you might be familiar with at the Eurovision just last week. David, could you talk us through what motivated you to take the action itself and the sort of aftermath that came from it?
Of course, thank you Lefty for having us on, appreciate it. Yeah, so Eurovision, one of the biggest watched events in the entire world, and one that is happy to platform a genocidal state, one which the Israeli state, let's be clear about that for 2.5 months has had a full blockade on Gaza, not allowing any food, water, key medical aid in, and putting 2 million people on the brink of starvation. This was a brilliant opportunity to disrupt and bring attention to the genocide that Israel is committing on a global scale. But ultimately, the message that we wanted to hone in on the most was the fact that our government, the UK government, and others across Europe are actively arming this. We are making parts just up the road. We're here in Manchester today. Just up the road in Blackburn, there's factories that are making parts to the planes that are dropping bombs on innocent Palestinian children and blowing them to pieces.
It's true as well, and also the Elbit factory in Oldham has also been targeted by Palestine action groups and has actually stopped manufacturing. But it's just disgusting to know that what we see partway around the world, and feel so helpless sometimes in their struggle to be able to help because it's so far away. But to know that components and other parts of these death showers are manufactured here in the northwest, in Greater Manchester and the wider areas like Lancashire, it really does blow my mind, and it disgusts me, and it's an absolute it's a shame. It puts shame on this area of the country. It puts shame on this country as a whole, that is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and we don't want these things done in our name. So that's a terrible freeze. Sorry, David. There we go. Sorry about the badly timed freeze frame there. But what was I saying? It's something that I think locally, obviously, we've got to speak out against. And if this is happening in your area, Blackburn was mentioned there, as well as the Elbit factory in Oldham, then do what you can. Just do what you can, because none of us want this happening in our names.
This is the reality in 2025.
Yeah.
And the action, we didn't go to plan. We wanted to get on stage and reveal a banner, but ultimately we got over the barrier, got faced with some pretty grim violence, and then dropped off in the middle of Switzerland somewhere after being handed over at the police. But it was an interesting.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt again. I won't interrupt too much for the rest of the clip. I was chatting with David yesterday, and what you heard there is more or less correct. Yeah, he wasn't arrested. He was obviously escorted out of the building after some heavy-handed security guards as well. But then the police just drove him, and this is in Switzerland, by the way. You might be able to tell that David isn't from Switzerland. He's not Swiss. No, he's from Tyneside. A very strong Newcastle accent there. A proper Geordie and a Magpies fan. So, not really a good idea to be dropped off in a country you're not familiar with. It's my understanding that David doesn't really speak French, but that's what happened. It just dumped him, in the middle of nowhere, somewhere he's totally not familiar with. But he's a resourceful chap and made his way home, fortunately, safely. But can you believe that? I only found that out, actually, last night. I've spoken to him a few times since I've messaged him. That is, we've messaged each other a few times since he did the action, but and I've seen him as well at another JSO sort of unofficial social, but that part just really blew my mind. Just makes the accomplishment all the more applaudable, I think.
Didn't want to say the least.
Yeah,
but
that picked up a lot of attention as well.
Yeah.
So what are Youth Demand's sort of plans moving forward? Can you tell us a bit more about Youth Demand as a group, and what the organisation's all about, and what you'd like to see happen in terms of policy from the UK government?
Of course, yeah. So we're in a bit of an intermediate phase. This summer we're not honing in or mobilising for a particular action phase, but instead we're focusing on upskilling our already thriving community, so that when we come autumn we're ready to build into an even bigger movement, a mass movement. We're serious about creating an organisation which can facilitate a mass boom in civil disobedience. That is ultimately the aim of the campaign, and obviously from the time that we've been campaigning so far, we've been attempting to connect both the climate movement as well alongside the Palestine Solidarity movement, and this is because both of these issues are just crises. Both these crises are just symptoms of the same broken political economic system, and ultimately we know that until we get right to the root of it and identify the root cause of what is creating these crises, which is ultimately our capitalist economic system and the political system that props it up, then we're not going to make any true progress. So we are in the process of building a truly revolutionary movement. This is what we are about, one which has a political wing to our wider struggle through assemble and the citizens' assembly work that they've been doing. And yeah, so encourage everyone to come along and be part of making this happen. Go to youthdemand.org, sign up for our training series, just get involved in whatever way you can. Yeah, because we need as many people on this as possible. We can really make something special happen in the coming years.
That's amazing, mate. Well done for all your actions, and obviously Youth Demand are involved a lot with people's assemblies, citizens' assemblies right now.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's important for us to go forward democratically as a country?
Well, it's abundantly clear that our political system is letting us down, right? The vast majority of the British public, for example, don't want us to arm Israel, yet here we are selling parts to the planes that are bombing innocent children. We need to take back power as the people, and citizens' assemblies is a true grassroots way of doing so. Having politics run by the people in a true democratic fashion, grassroots way, for the people instead of for the corrupt economic elite.
Yeah, David's putting it really well here. This is something that I think definitely has to be the future. We can all agree that we need to move away from this outdated system, and we need a lot more representation in our democracy as well. But it has to be, if this isn't going to be given to us by the establishment people, this is something that the people have to take for themselves, that we have to take from the ground up. And you can find out more. You might not be familiar with Assemble, who you heard mentioned there. That's one of the other offshoots of Just Stop Oil, as well as Youth Demand, of course. So do check out more about Assemble, as well as the Humanity Project, which also, there's a lot of cross-pollination there between JSO Humanity Project and Extinction Rebellion, etc. So check out the proposals, check out what's happening in your local area, and if you want to host a citizens' assembly, then go for it. The organisations that I've just mentioned, Assemble and the Humanity Project, have frameworks and ways to assist you in putting on your own assembly if you wish. So do get in touch with them if that sounds like your kind of thing. And let us be free of this first past the post, outdated, dusty, archaic, almost medieval system that we're still stuck with in 2025, people.
Which is currently what we have. And until we can present a viable alternative to the political system we have, then we're pissing into the wind. Because how do you expect to change without having the alternative? And the alternative is in citizens' assembly, it's in grassroots democracy, and it's handing it back, the power back to the people.
That's a brilliant idea. It's obviously something that is required, and specifically on Palestine. How do you feel about the recent blockades, and also the government's sort of action or lack of action in encouraging Israel to allow more aid into the country? We've seen a lot of news stories recently about aid blockades being blocked, as well as the continuing atrocities that are happening in Gaza. So how do you feel about that?
It's disgusting. It's disgusting that it's happening. It's just the Israeli state, a genocidal state, should have the whole of the Western capitalist elite have their backs turned on them by now. But in fact, it's the absolute opposite. We're still arming them. And this is what people should be pissed off about. The announcement that the Prime Minister made and that Lefty announced in Parliament about sort of stopping trade negotiations with Israel.
Yeah, we sorry to interrupt again. We've spoken about that on live streams as well. But I just want to quickly bring up, recently, did you see that clip, or did you watch Question Time QT? The other night, and this lady in the audience who got a question would not let up at the Labour member on the panel, whose name escapes me for the moment, but she did a really good job in talking out, in calling out the bullshit. She was trying to say that obviously we've stopped sending F-35 components and everything else, and the lady in the audience rightly pointed out, heckled her to death, won't let her get away with it. We've only reduced the amount that we send to Israel by 8%, people. 8%. That's appalling. You know, they really take the British public for fools, as though everything that they say on television just goes into our brains and gets automatically accepted as the truth. We're in the communications age, where there is a lot of misinformation out there as well, of course, thanks to the likes of, you know, everybody who's up to no good on social media. But people can very quickly find out the truth, and it's just an insult to the audience's intelligence. It's an insult to Palestinians, as well as the worst thing. And again, it besmirks us as a country.
Probably too little, too late, and we need more action from.
Yeah, this is outside. This is outside a bar where David had just given a talk. By the way, the location, I can see you mentioning that in the chat. Yeah, like I said, eagle-eyed Mancunians might recognise the area, so that's where it was. It was a good talk as well.
Our government, but that's not going to come from sitting around. We need people to get onto the streets. We need people to engage in civil disobedience, and that's what we're about at Youth Demand. We're going to continue to be a channel for people's rage to be placed, so that we can turn this rage into concrete action from our government, which ultimately will build into further social change down the line. So yeah, it's disgusting, but we need to do something about it. So come and join us at Youth Demand, sign up at youthdemand.org. Yeah, that's what we're about.
Awesome, thanks David. Just one last question. What's your message for young people to get involved with Youth Demand, to get involved with what is happening politically, like going past the, whether it's about Palestine, whether it's about domestic issues, what is your message to young people at this moment?
We're all pissed off and let down by the current political, the state of politics that we've grown up around, but that is present now. And I encourage every single person to step up and escalate their actions to push towards real meaningful change. Now, for different people, this means very different things, and depending on your identity and context, this is very different for different people. But for some people, that means stepping into civil disobedience. This means stepping into civil resistance and taking that next step. And for every single person who's out there who is in that place, go to youthdemand.org, sign up. I've said this a couple of times now, I sound like a broken record, but this is ultimately, we have a concrete plan about how we're really going to put pressure on the state and be a threat to this genocidal government, a government which is backing a genocidal state and giving them arms. We need every single person that we can to be part of us. So yeah, please join us.
Fantastic. So yeah, get out there, do what you can. Thanks for talking to us.
Do what you can.
David.
Cheers, Lefty. Absolute legend, mate.
All right, take care. Mate.
Thank you, man.
David there, David Curry, great lad. Yeah, love the guy, brilliant stuff. Just to add a little bit to what we mentioned at the end there, obviously I'm someone who has stepped forward into civil disobedience myself, but just a reminder, people, that we have a lot more power, we have a lot more agency than the government want to tell us that we have, or want to act like we have. They've totally, completely forgotten that they're supposed to be working for us, and more or less all of the establishment now are just, you know, career politicians and whatnot. This has been going on for hundreds of years, people. It's got to stop. We have got the power to stop it. We have got a plan for what to replace it with. This isn't, you know, when people hear the word revolution, it often brings up violent thoughts. You know, you might think about ancient classic uprisings and revolutions, the Octoberists, you know, the December Revolution, whatever it might be in whatever country. but sometimes people historically have just gone after power and then not really had much of an idea about what to replace it with. Yeah, and that's led to all sorts of atrocities historically. In this case, the framework is clear, the plan is there. David got a lot of free plugs in there as well. So if you're interested in the organisation, Youth Demand, go to youthdemand.org. Just want to point out as well, this channel is completely independent. This isn't official Youth Demand media, but of course, like giving free plugs out to my friends. And also, don't forget to check out Assemble and the Humanity Project as well. Hand reveal. Hand reveal, yeah. Well, it still counts as faceless. We've seen his hand. Like eventually, from different clips, you might be able to freeze frame them and put together. So if you're an absolute psycho, that is, and put it on your wall. It's a bit quiet in the background, isn't it? So yes, we do have power, we do have agency. We can do this non-violently. But we need a proper people's house. There were around 30 people at the talk yesterday. It was really great to see. A lot of them are studying or have just finished studying in and around Manchester as well, the people that were there. Great bunch. We were talking about those topics as well. One of the things that kept coming up is how, you know, obviously we have what is known as the House of Commons, but it's not particularly common to make, what, 80, 90, 100k plus a year, is it? If by becoming a Member of Parliament you are automatically, technically, in the upper classes, then that is a juxtaposition. It's an oxymoron to call it the House of Commons, isn't it? Commons? How very dare you? Good point, Odin. People with nothing to lose have everything to gain. That's true. That's true. As well as having no choice, you know. I stepped up into civil disobedience because it was out of necessity that something has to be done about the climate, which is something I'm going to move on to for a little bit now before we get on to Gaza. Of course, this sort of all ties in with JSO and Youth Demand. What was I saying there? Yeah, about getting involved with civil resistance, but it's the same where our democracy's concerned. Because one thing that is really blocking us taking action on things like the climate, if that's a particular concern of yours, it's the number one concern for me, is that obviously this political wall that we can't get past. We've made certain amounts of progress, and, you know, obviously very proud to have been involved with JSO, stopping new fossil fuel licenses, for example. But we're still not doing enough. And some of that is even just to meet our legal requirements that we promised at COP meetings and so on and so forth. You know, we can't even do that as a bare minimum. And when you find out that of recent prime ministers over the last decade and a half, the one who had actually been most effective in tackling climate change was Alexander Boris de Facto Johnson, it really makes you think. You know, he obviously wasn't completely outspoken about climate breakdown or what the country would do to tackle it, of course. but that he was the air quotes best really says a lot for everybody else, and that goes right the way back to hammering in 2010. I should do a climate stream. Yeah, Doc, do, you know, there's so much happening politically. I do obviously love climate as a topic, and yeah, I would love to get more in about the climate. I would seriously consider that. As in a designated segment as well. Well, it's something I'm going to get onto literally right now, actually. Now's as good a time as any. Before I risk going on a tangent. Which article have we got up here? Okay, I'm just going to go through some quick news. It's like almost, you know, not being atypically British here, but we're going to... And now the weather. No, it's climate really, but obviously weather patterns are concerned within that. So this has been announced. It's been the sunniest May on record, and remember, yes, we are still in May, and tomorrow temperatures could hit 26 degrees in the southeast around London. So it's really extraordinary. And it's been crazy here where I'm streaming from, people. You'll have like 10-15 minutes of sunshine and then overcast, threats of rain, and if you from Manchester or the northwest or the north in general, you'd be more than familiar with this, as I'm sure our friends across the border in Scotland occasionally so. Had the highest recorded temperature. You can see there, that's the forecast for tomorrow. I'm just quickly skimming through this because it was also mentioned yesterday that there's a very, very high chance that we will again break the top temperature record in this country within the next 4 or 5 years. That was in summer 2022 when it got to 40, what was it, 40.3 degrees? Briefly, but still a record. But preceding that, and at the same time, there were of course mid-30s, high 30 temperatures, if you remember that summer from 3 years ago. Absolute scorcher. In fact, okay, I was thinking about this like recently because the Egyptian embassy came up with the hunger strike. I won't go too much into the case itself, but a protest, a small protest that me and some of my comrades in JSO took part in London 2022 was one of the only days that it rained the entire 6 weeks that I was there, and we started on October the 1st, you know, obviously going into autumn there, deep into autumn, and in London throughout those 6 weeks it hardly rained at all. Andy Carter has joined us in the chat with a bang. Thank you for the gifted membership, Solidari-Tea. Great to see you. And Graham Turner, a recipient. Great to see you back. So that, again, extends the record to 111. Thanks very much, Andy. Yeah, another bullseye. Such a sharpshooter, this guy. I think you've got some elven genes in there. Some elven blood. Great shot. Where was I? Yes, so just a reminder that we're set to break that record temperature again within the next few years. The records will get broken in shorter time frames as well. That will happen a lot more frequently, and the extremes will get more extreme. This is the way it happens, and it will fluctuate as it does so. But the peaks will just get higher and higher on average. So I do want to mention this as well. Obviously, this is climate's a topic I've taken action on, and others have as well, and received ridiculous sentences as well, sometimes for not even taking part in any action whatsoever under these jumped up conspiracy charges that we have these days. So again, slightly biased because it's close to home here, and these are also 4 friends of mine. Can you read that okay? So this was from yesterday, I believe. I'll just there's a few other details because it's not quite this simple. So Indigo, Daniel, Ella and Margaret were in court. They've been on remand for a very long time. Indigo was sentenced to 2.5 years, Daniel to 2 years, Ella and Margaret to 1.5 years. All of them got £2,000 costs. However, there was a debacle with the court, and several of us ended up having to ring the governor of the prison because for some reason the judge thought that they'd only been in for 3 months instead of 9 on remand. The difference being that the 9 months meant that for time served, Ella and Margaret, as you can see there, were released yesterday, but Indigo and Daniel will remain in prison. But yeah, massive screw up there. Don't know if it was accidental or not, if you know what I'm saying, people. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it for the court support there myself, but there was an amazing turnout from what I'm told, and that's just really good to see that people were there to greet Ella and Margaret as well. But we do have to show solidarity with all 4, and really just again highlight that these sentences are ridiculous. Indigo and Daniel shouldn't be serving. So this is for planning an action at Manchester Airport. You might remember other airport sprains. Was the Taylor Swift Jet one, for example, or the attempt, should say. Don't think they actually got Taylor Swift's jet specifically, but they got a couple of others. Yes, so free all of the Manchester 4. That's what I say. That's my left eye's official clarion call. This is from a Just Stop Oil tweet, so if you'd like to support them or help them with the cost, there is a chuffed.org fundraiser you can see there on the post, so please do check that out. I'll post a link with this status in the video stream description, I should say, if you want a direct link. Or in fact, I might as well just put the direct link to the chuff.org page. Why not? Haha, even better. Yeah, and they're all great people. Ella and Margaret are from, or I say were, from JSO North, which I was also very proud to be involved with. So yeah, when you see that, you know, outraged for all injustice, but when you see this happening to people who you know, and who you know, wonderful people just trying to fight for a livable future, it puts it on a whole nother level, really, I do have to say. Just checking if I had anything else queued up on climatey, environmental stuff. Oh, I do. Yes, of course. Thames Water have received quite a hefty fine for putting shit all over the place in the rivers and streams and the sea. Thames Water do, of course, have a terrible track record for this. Yeah, there is nothing on this earth that you could give me that would tempt me to take a dip in the Thames. And if you're from the UK, I don't know if you know the sort of hard water, soft water debate. You know, in the north we're said to have soft water. In the south it's hard, so to speak. Let's just take a quick look at this. This is obviously good, but the whole thing needs renationalising as well. Put it back into the public hands. 122.7 million for breaching rules over sewage spills and shareholder payouts. The penalty is the biggest ever issued by the water industry regulator Ofwat, which said the company had let down its customers and failed to protect the environment. The watchdog confirmed the fines would be paid by the company and its investors and not by customers who were hit with water bill increases last month. Now look at this, people. So the shareholders are getting, let's be quite frank, a fuck ton of money. But at the same time, we can see in this paragraph here, Thames Water says the company took its responsibility towards the environment very seriously and added it was continuing its search for new investment as it struggles under a 20 billion debt pile. How can you be 20 billion in debt and still paying money out to your biggest shareholders? Let's try and have a quick skim through how much they've received. Right, so breaking it down, 104 million of the fine was for rules over sewage, basically. Dumping crap. Literal crap. I'm not, you know, speaking figuratively here, or trying to be shocking. This is cacophonous. About 18.2 million was for breaches relating to shareholder payouts known as dividends, the article somewhat condescendingly reminds us. One such payment worth 37.5 million made in October 2023 to the firm's holding company. You can pay out 37.5 million when you're 20 billion in debt, can you? Antonia, thanks for joining us in the chat. Great to see you. How does that work? How does that work? If you put that, you know, it just goes to show that the bigger you are, you know, not just in terms of wealth, but the deeper your credit rating goes. Could you imagine if you were in, if you scale it down, let's say tens or hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of debt in the hole, but then you're still able to go out and buy a few luxuries, a few goodies? No, it doesn't happen. Unless you're Thames Water. So the regulator said those payouts were undeserved. Yeah, no shit. They're paying themselves for polluting our water. And I will just remind you people that there are officially no clean rivers or streams left in the UK. None, not a one. Green and pleasant land. You know, they'll sing it at the proms, but they won't enact it into policy, will they? This is quite a breakthrough though. The article says it's the first time that the regulator has fined a water company for this reason. And quite rightly so. A bit of a timeline there, but I won't go through all of that. That pretty much just sums it up. And oh, there was one other thing I wanted to quickly mention there as well. I don't think I bookmarked it, but let me check. If not, I'll just quickly mention it. No, I've not got it bookmarked. Okay, so here in the West, you know, we go over to a sink in the kitchen or the bathroom and we turn on a tap. That would be what you call a faucet if you're watching in America, from America, I should say. But then water comes out, yeah. But that might not happen. And we're not even talking about really, really far into the future. We're not talking about 50 years, we're not talking about 30 years, 25 years, we're talking about 10. Unless we start to build more reservoirs, given the amount of dry days that we're having ever increasing, as we've already mentioned, as well as consumption rates, there will not be any left in 10 years. In 10 years' time, we're not all going to be able to go to the tap and turn it on and get water out. Now, if you want to talk about the failures of capitalism, the failures of the system that we have here, that you cannot provide the people who you're supposed to represent and look after with something that falls out of the fucking sky, then it, you know, then how bad is it? How bad is that system? This isn't, you know, like gold or diamonds, and it's a great amount of time and process, discovery, refinement, etc. to bring you the thing in the end. It falls out of the sky every day on the planet, usually somewhere in this country, you know, this temperate zone that we dwell upon, that we dwell in. So yeah, talk about failure. It falls out of the sky and we can't even get it to people, you know. It should be fairly simple. Even the ancient Romans came up with the essential basics of this kind of thing. The aqueduct. Oh, sorry. You're gonna have to let me know in the chat if you got that reference. The aqueduct. Right. Yeah, and again, this isn't any kind of pseudoscience. We're not talking flat Earth here or any of this, you know, birds are robots nonsense. What else have we got? It's not, you know, geocentrism. Yes, there are people who think that the Earth is the centre of our solar system and that we don't orbit around the sun, walking the planet, as well as those who think it's flat. It's not hollow Earth theory or anything like that. This is real. You know, climate change is real. And even I'm amazed by the stats, and believe me, I look into this a lot. It's actually difficult to keep up with. I remember the last time Professor Bill Maguire did one of the talks for us, JSO, at one of our soup nights. Talking to him afterwards, I'm not sure if I asked the question during his presentation as well, but it must be really frustrating for people like Bill and other authors, other great scientists who have the latest data. By the time they've got a book finished and published and it's out on the shelves, a lot of it has changed. It's gotten worse than even they predicted. So they constantly, and it's not that they were wrong, it's just that things are happening worse and faster than previously thought. So wonderful professors and authors really do struggle to keep up. Obviously you can get information online and things like this, but just constantly shocked. I'm terrified. I'm terrified that 10, 20 years down the line, unfortunately, retrospectively, a lot of people are going to regret that they didn't do anything to try and stop it. And I don't look forward to having any particular gloating rights on issues like this, you know what I mean? I don't want to say, I told you so, because the consequences of that happening for humanity are obviously awful. It's something I wish wasn't true. Flo, you got the aqueduct reference. Great stuff. Yeah, so I said quite a bit about the climate there. I might move on to other topics. Just one moment, people. Bear with me for a second. I'm just gonna grab a quick drink, and I'll be right back. Okay, people, thanks for your patience there. Let's see what's happening in the chat. First of all, is it refreshing properly? Okay, what are we saying, people? Surely islands can create canals of fresh water. Well, Antonio, yeah, the solutions are there. The thing is, you can't say to the establishment, you can't say to people like Keir Starmer or the Tories that something needs to be done. The only way that they want to change anything is to create a new market so that people can financially benefit from said market that they've created. If there is no serious financial, interest in the solutions, then a lot of the time they don't want to know, and that's one of the sick, toxic things about capitalism as well. Yeah. And Morbius. Yeah, there's sort of less, what would you call them? Disaster films, end of the world type of film. Waterworld, Day After Tomorrow. Yeah, I think was... this is stretching my film trivia. Let me think. I think Waterworld was the most expensive film ever when it was made. Was it Kevin Costner who was in that? Yeah, Day After Tomorrow, that's another one. But you think they might scare people if they make them now? Well, there is, of course, Don't Look Up, which is a great one. Adam McKay, great guy. He was a supporter of JSO as well. Also a great director. He did The Big Short as well. Really great guy. I've been on a Zoom call with him, you know. But do check that out if you're not familiar with it. It's one of the... Well, the thing is, you're saying, obviously, disaster films about climate change. In this case, it's a metaphor, it's an allegory with this meteor asteroid, which is unstoppably heading towards our planet. Now that I think about it, there were others going back. What would they be? I think they were, you know, 90s films, Armageddon, and what's the other one? Deep Impact, Morgan Freeman, that sort of thing. But they didn't have the metaphor, they didn't have the allegory. They actually delayed the release of Don't Look Up because they thought that people would confuse it with it being a metaphor for COVID-19, but it's actually, obviously, climate change. Quick synopsis, without spoilers for anybody who's not seen it. There is this asteroid heading towards the Earth, nothing that we can do about it, but some elements of the media and culture and the right or whatever are so far in denial that their clarion call is don't look up. They choose to sort of ignore that it's happening. And you can already sort of guess the sort of metaphors around it. Great film, great cast as well. Who are the big names in there? You've got Kate Blanchett is in the film. Leonardo DiCaprio is in the film. Check it out. And Adam McKay's other work as well. Graham, thanks for joining us. That's wonderful timing, having recently received a gifted membership from Sharpshooter Andy Carter here. I bet Andy Carter's actually, you know, you've done special ops shit, haven't you? You've been out on manoeuvres. You're one of those. Are you in the SAS, Andy? That explains it. Or maybe you're semi-professional at darts. The Day the Earth Caught Fire. I don't think I've seen that one more. It rings a bell. The Day... Is that an older one? The Day the Earth Caught Fire. I'm trying to think of some other old ones. That's a good point, actually. What would have been classed as the first ever sort of climate disaster film? Interesting. Was it? What's the one where a nuclear power plant melts down and the core is going to burn through the Earth and go through the planet and come out the other side in China? China Crisis? No, that's a band. Is it? What's it called? I think Kurt Russell might have been in it. Sorry, brain fart, people. Having a brain fart. But if you know what might have been the first proper feature-length, full-release climate disaster film, let me know. Let's move on to other topics, people. Just very quickly, a reminder. So tomorrow, this is what I can tell you, people. There's going to be more exclusive footage to come over the weekend. I'll be getting some of the content on the Sunday live stream, but I can say that I'm going to be present at a protest somewhere in the Manchester area. tomorrow morning. So yeah, I can say that much. So yeah, I really do like being out in the field again. So I'll be doing. You'll have to understand, obviously, the protest comes first, but I'll try and get as much footage in there as I can. Maybe a couple of interviews. Thank you, Andy. Solidari-Tea. Yes, all will be revealed on the Sunday live stream. I usually jump on around sort of 7-8 PM-ish for the Sunday live stream. Asterix, yeah. To be very clear, I'm hoping I'm not going to do anything that could get me put on remand. 1961, Morbius, is that the day the Earth caught fire? Well, that could be the record for the oldest, anyway. Yes, Andy, get your brew topped up, because it's going to be thirsty work getting through the next subject, which is Gaza. I'm going to obviously go into that, because earlier on David mentioned youth demands. Total discussed its inaction. But there's been quite a bit happening since I was last with you the other day, people, so where shall I start? Where shall I start first? I'll try and go in chronological order. I've just got a few articles here. I'm not going to read through, just go through the very finest, the very basic points. Unfortunately, it's not good news, people. Again, a bit behind the times, but the EU has acknowledged that Israeli strikes in Gaza go beyond what is necessary to fight Hamas, you know. Yeah. Tomorrow's headline is that water is going to be wet. What else can you say about that? Really wanted to quickly mention that, but, you know, come on, keep up. Germany, in particular, were not really on the fence about this for a while, but, you know, obviously massively dragged the feet in terms of criticism of Israel, given their history, of course. They were very worried that they could be accused of things that they'd done, repeating things that had happened in the past. Of course, that was just utter paranoid nonsense, and the German police had been particularly heavy-handed against pro-Palestine protesters as well. But on the whole, yes, the EU say, of course it goes beyond what is necessary. There is nothing at all that can justify Israel's actions, not a thing, and Israel is certainly no exception to international law. You know, not like they like to pretend that they are. Speaking of the law, there was this as well. This amazing segue was brought to you from the Brews. Hundreds of lawyers have called for sanctions. Have they used the same picture in that article? I'm sure that's the same lady that was in... Sorry, I'm just going to go back to this other article. I have to know. Let's go to that last one. It is. It's the same lady. This, I assure you though, this is a different article. That is, you know, not taking the piss or anything. That image does sum up a lot when you look at the lady's expression. She's holding the pots and pans there. You see, I'm sure you've seen other pictures of absolute walls of people holding up just what they can to try and, you know, colanders, pans, anything, to try and get in some rice or bread or whatever it is that's being handed out. With the people behind her, you know, gaunt, desolate faces, the place absolutely blown to smithereens. It is quite a fitting image. What was that? And where's the background music? Sort it out, Phil. He's on it. Okay. Phil's our mute producer who definitely exists. He's over there. Right. So hundreds of lawyers have called for the government to use all available means to stop the fighting in Gaza, which includes reviewing trade ties with Israel and imposing sanctions and travel bans on Israeli ministers. Absolutely. If any of them step foot on our soil, they should have the irons on them immediately. Because if I can get arrested for fighting for a livable future, then certainly those guilty of international war crimes, including using starvation as a weapon, should be as well. And the lawyers warned that genocide was being perpetrated from Israel's blockade of food and aid and its new military offensive. It's an occupation military offensive which has killed hundreds of Palestinians there in the past fortnight. Do I have that bookmarked? Just one sec, because I do want to mention this. Yeah, so there's, it's kind of strange, there are two things going on at the same time. A supposed push for further ceasefire talks, but at the same time, and this is just another example of how Israel every time goes to railroad ceasefire talks, they've announced 20 odd, I think it's 22 or something, new occupation zones, I'm going to call them, because that's what they are, not settlements. Which obviously isn't going to help things in the talk. You can't have these massive so-called military operations going on at the same time as ceasefire talks. You can't have Israel announcing that it's just going to take even more land from Gaza. If you want that as a metaphor, that would be like us turning around to the Republic of Ireland and announcing that we're going to take another few counties away from them, you know. But again, Israel think that they get to casually announce this without any pushback, without any consequences. Just who in the bloody hell do they think that they are? Well, I'll tell you what they are. They're deluded, is what they are. They're psychopathic. then similar to the latest attacks since I was last with you on streams, scores, perhaps hundreds of people have been killed again. And Israel think that just because you said that you were going to do it in the first place means that it's excusable. Like, oh, you've you know, blown up this school, or you've blown up this hospital. Oh well, we said we were going to do it so people could get out the way. So it's you know, no harm, no foul, isn't it? Really? Like, really? And speaking of hospitals, there are now no properly functioning hospitals left in the entirety of Gaza. Just look at this. The last one had to be evacuated after that announcement. So yeah, you sit down at a negotiating table. Let's say whether it's the Qataris or whoever's trying to facilitate talks, has to set up some sort of dialogue between the two. They act as a sort of go-between, and the idea is that you come up with a result. But if that's, you know, we want a ceasefire. However, we're going to announce that we're going to be blowing up your last hospital. Oh, and while we're at it, we're also going to be taking these new areas of territory for our stupid, crazy, what's it going to be called? The Greater Israel plan or proposal. This isn't tin hat stuff, again. This isn't like flat earth stuff. Birds are not robots. He stood up on stage at the United Nations with maps about what he intended to do in the Middle East and the land that he wanted to annex from Palestine, Libya, parts of Egypt. He's a fucking madman. Could you imagine if a German stood up and did that, or a, you know, Frenchman, Italian? If we did that, like I said, I used that example, hypothetical example, for the UK, because you've got to be honest, people, of Britain's occupation of Northern Ireland. Could you imagine? Oh no, but you know, Netanyahu thinks he can get away with it. Good point, yeah, Morbius. It's going back to the disaster movies. They've gone out of fashion now because the horrors have moved from fiction to fact. Yeah, and I've heard a lot and seen articles and stuff about this so-called death of parody now, thanks to the Tories. You know, we still have great content like Exploding Heads, who are going to be coming up later on, as well as Broken News that we saw at the top of the stream, and Matt Green and all the other great people. Oh, and those, they're amazing. Have you seen those Pat McFadden Experience ones from that guy? What's he called again? That the voices are very good. I think the voices and the jokes are great. Whoever does those, always good to see. But yeah, with like dark humour or parodying things like maybe Black Mirror, for example, or the works of Chris Morris, who's an amazing satirist as well. The one who did Brass Eye and Four Lions and lots of other great stuff. The Day to Day, he was part of as well. So stuff like that must be increasingly difficult to write, you know. Because from what we had, you know, over the last decade and a half, accusations of porcine rituals at, shall we say, education establishments, initiation sessions. Ha ha, Cameron. In fact, yeah, there were comparisons with that and one of the early Black Mirror episodes. It was one where essentially the Prime Minister, fictional Prime Minister, oh God, I'll have to work this out. But at the time it came out, I think, I guess it would have been Gordon Brown or Tony Blair who was the Prime Minister. Just trying to remember when Black Mirror first. I've not seen all of them, but anyway, they essentially were blackmailed via terrorists into fornicating with a farmyard animal live on television, which I think was like one of the first ones, and that it was I guess a sheep, I don't know. Might have been a pig. And then along comes David Cameron, and was it someone put it in one of the books? They'd written a book entitled "Oh My God, Did You Know That?" Allegedly David Cameron hooked a pig's head at a Bullingdon Boys Club initiation ceremony. You know, the sort of thing where, as Alexis Hale says, where they're all slamming each other's dicks in the door. Go on, Sir Michael, give it another. Lord Ashcroft, that was it, Andy. Thanks for that. So yeah, look at this, people. Just quickly back to the topic in hand. How did I get from a hospital to from a hospital to a pig's head? The crazy segue world of the Brews at 10. No, but this is obviously serious, people. It says the last hospital providing health services in the North Gaza Governorate is out of service after the Israeli military ordered its immediate evacuation, the hospital's director has said. Dr. Mohammed Salah, not the Liverpool player, said patients were evacuated from Al Auda Hospital in Jabalia. That was yesterday evening. No hospitals, no safe zones, no food, no clean drinking water. Anything else? Or, yeah, you better believe it. You've got disease, you've got dysentery, you've got, you know, it's a bit grim, but I have to speak it like it is. People are literally crapping themselves to death. They are dying of diarrhea and dysentery. This is the most densely populated country in the world, and today I heard it also described as the hungriest country in the world. Yeah, it's world number one for starvation at the moment, unfortunately. For the record, not that it's believable, but for what it's worth, of course. Israel will claim that the hospital is some sort of Hamas command and control centre. Point at planted evidence, lie. Get fucking Hotovely and Mensa to spout some crap and get them on social media, whatever. Repeat ad nauseum. This is from yesterday, the article. 72 people killed just yesterday. Terrible. There's another classic example, those kinds of pictures I'm referring to. And you can see there, it looks like they're just giving out beans. And that's all that they're getting. Beans in some sort of sauce. that's a meal if they get one, you know, if they get one at all. And there you have it again. They keep, you know, they keep changing the story. They keep changing what's happening. You know, it's the same pattern. So look at this. You remember, first of all, they said they weren't letting the aid in because they said that Hamas was stealing it. Obviously, that's incorrect. We've been into that before. Now that everybody, including the UK, France, Canada, other countries have turned around and more or less said, you know, we're going to get serious if you don't let the aid through. Now they're saying that they're trying to block it and going back to demanding that the hostages are returned. So they're trying to essentially muscle the ceasefire negotiations as well by having this, you know, well, this power, because it's their decision as to how much aid doesn't get in, and they're absolutely trying to milk this now for everything that it's worth. This is like their golden goose. They think that this is the key to them getting preferential treatment in the ceasefire tactics, in the ceasefire talks, I should say, but I think that their tactics are absolutely despicable, and they're certainly illegal. This, again, only adds to the list of charges against them, including using starvation as a weapon. And of course, you goddamn, there it is again and again and again. We as the BBC would like to remind you that we speak for Israel, who say that this all began on October 7th, 2023. Nothing happened in Palestine prior to that date. Honest. And there's more. Just one other bit to mention. What was it? Oh, of course. Yeah, this was announced on Wednesday. I think I was going to go into this on PMQs, but alas, no PMQs. Just very quickly, Israel have claimed that they've killed Hamas Gaza chief Mohammed Sinwar. Is that coming up? There it is. Yeah, it's up. Aswi was one of the most wanted men and the brother of Yahya Sinwar. So Mohammed Sinwar was the target of airstrike on the courtyard and surrounding area of the European... alas, you know. Spoke about that recently, the European hospital in the southern city. Yeah. Did you know, people, Yahya is the equivalent name for John? Yes. For anyone who's into the language. Okay. That seems to have been confirmed as well, that claim, since this came out on... this article came out on Wednesday. Obviously, it's not been in charge or high-ranking for very long. So there was that announcement. And again, that's another thing that must make for, you know, uncomfortable news during the ceasefire talks. if there's ever a sniff of peace, Israel don't want to know. What's the word I'm trying to look for? Not obsessed. You know, they're just hell bent on the complete destruction of Palestine, the complete occupation. I saw something earlier actually that said, I do actually like the proposal. One thing that would help is just to not acknowledge the state of Israel whatsoever and refer to it as the OPS, the Occupied Palestinian State. Try to send that to some of the mainstream media outlets, but even they seem to be coming round. Like I mentioned recently, even, you know, Jeremy Bowen, who's one of the main reporters for the BBC on Gaza, other report, you know, they don't get let in. They're frustrated by this. It's obviously very telling that if there's something that you don't want journalists to see, then it must mean that you're up to no good, which it does. But it doesn't matter what you put. All the journalists are Hamas, yeah. UNRWA as well. They're Hamas. UNICEF, no, sorry, they're all. In fact, anything to do with the United Nations whatsoever is all Hamas. So was this child's head. So was this hospital. So was this school. So, disgustingly and tragically, so many unborn children as well. So yes, solidarity as always with Palestine. I think that's all I'll say on the matter for now. Yeah, you're more or less up to speed with that. Just got another couple of topics I want to go into very quickly. Domestic stuff here. We've got, yeah, been talking about this. People have been talking about this for the last couple of days now. Starmer's knee-jerk response to these polls, you know, the apparent hype over Reform UK. He clearly feels threatened, so he hosted an entire news conference all about reform. Obviously I'm no fan of Farage or reform, but you do have to say he clearly looks rattled. He's only got himself to blame though, hasn't he? All he's done is try and copy reform. Obviously people who were going to vote for them are going to vote for them anyway if you've got the same policies. People are debating or arguing over whether he's working class or establishment, that is Farage, as if they don't already know the answer, you know, come on. He made this announcement the other day about policies, but it was generally vague and uncosted is the main thing to remember as well. Starmer's had to hit back. But yeah, this is rich from someone who's mimicked reform at every turn, is trying to outflank him on the right. So Starmer said that Farage would be the next Liz Truss. But then Reform have come back and called it a desperate attack from a party behind in the polls. You know, this kind of reaction to a party that currently have 5 seats, you've got to say, certainly is something. But a few of the journalists who were at this conference really did sort of see the hypocrisy of this, you know. How much have we heard about immigration from Starmer recently? At times it seems to be all that he wants to talk about, you know, as though migration is the key to everything, to all our societal problems. But it isn't. No, that's a far-right trope. So when he used to can all the "they're taking our jobs" crap, let's, I just want to quickly open a Twitter page here, 1 second. I just want to see if Stats for Lefties have got anything out that's passed me by. Let's just try and see what the latest polling actually is. You know, we've seen some that predicts a hung parliament, we've seen some that predicts a reform majority. Point being, I can't remember the last time I saw a poll that said there'd be a Labour majority, or even, you know, a very, 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 very slim one. Ian McKenna, thank you for joining us. Nice to see you. Right, so Stats for Lefties. Just scrolling here. Anything in the last day or two? Yes, there is. There's one from just 5 hours ago, so this is very fresh. Okay, just... Come on, Twitter. Just 1 second, people. Sort your shit out, Elon. This fucking thing isn't working. What's this in the chat about biscuits? I'm seeing biscuits. Ian, you read that whoever's number 1 gets biscuits. Has the order changed? Mobius is number 1. Davinia's number 2. But you only need, was it 75 experience points? And then you max out. God, would you like, you know, I'm going to have to read out an epic novel whilst just waiting for this post to load here. Let's see what we've got lying around the place. Call me Ishmael. No, oh, is it loaded? No, it's just I've got a notification. Well, I'll tell you while it's loading anyway. The latest one, the fresh poll, suggests a reform majority again. That's all you have to know. Just going back to what the journalists at that conference were saying, I heard a little bit of a clip of it, and one of them again was pointing out how quickly Starmer's fallen out of favour with the public. Like, nobody has tanked in the polls quicker than Starmer has. That's within the first 10 months. You can't count Liz Truss in that. She only lasted about 40 days, didn't she? Holy shit balls. I'll just quickly read a little bit more from this. And then we'll move on. Well, the spender review's coming up, isn't it? Yeah, that's something else I wanted to mention. And basically, a few people have turned around to Starmer and said, you know, we're going to need a massive amount of funding, more than we've got at the moment, if we're going to do what you've promised the country. If you're going to, you know, D-word, if Postman Twat's going to be around. And I think it was the police commissioner as well was one of them about the crime targets, about the prison population targets and so on, so forth. So the Institute, just going back to what Farage said the other day, the Institute for Fiscal Studies have said that the policies he announced would cost between 50 billion and 80 billion a year, but they haven't spelled out how they pay for this. This, you know, you can take it from me, people, you can put this in the bank. They're certainly not going to be taxing the rich. How people are falling again for a stockbroker who has no connection with working class people at all, this guy, arguably even less than Keir Starmer, but somehow people think that they can relate to Farage and that they can connect to him for some warped reason. Certainly more than Starmer, who's no charmer and definitely doesn't have the suave personality to go along with whatever he's saying, you know. Yeah, just a reminder that was the final total from those local elections a few weeks ago now. 677 new councillors. And that was only a very limited number of seats that were up for grabs as well. I don't think this would convince anyone who, you know, bearing in mind it's 4 years down the road still, the next general election. But it's not going to bring anyone who was intending on voting for reform back to Labour. This man, more than likely, will not be standing at the next election as leader of the Labour Party. Yes, Davinia, good point. Public school boy, as well as a stockbroker. Banks at Coots, of course, that's the same bank that Charles Windsor uses. Oh, good heavens, he didn't call him His Royal Highness King Charles. He must be some sort of Leninist Marxist or something. Oh, Davinia, you're back at number 1, yeah. I really don't know how it works. This is all out of my hands, of course. It's let's just have another quick look. Oh, they've changed. Right. Ah. So if I don't know if you have access to this, if you can click on the thing where it says community, it's got a crown. 75 XP is no longer the threshold, the ceiling. So you're currently on 200 XP there, Davinia. Looks like they've sorted. So it is a bit more competitive now. So just a reminder that, what is it? Talking in the chat, super stickers and super chats count towards your XP, as well as does gifted memberships I know that super chats and super stickers definitely do though. Just 1 second. I'll yeah, it's not gifted memberships, it's super chats and super stickers if you want to get some XP on the community leaderboard. I really wish, I really wish I could customize that to make it say community. There's another thing, I don't know, obviously there are 1 or 2 fellow YouTubers I can see in the chat as well. But when you're on your channel page, there's a thing at the side, and one of them is community, and that's where you can see comments and things like that. I wish I could customize that one to community as well. I shall email YouTube, and if you don't ask, you don't get. Right, where was I? I'll just quickly refresh that. Let's give that tweet one more try. On a limited CPU here, people. Just a reminder. It's quality streaming, but not necessarily quality equipment. Ever improving though, thanks to things like your gifted memberships. Got a new mic recently, of course. Hurrah! 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 Not about the results, just the fact that the page is loaded. I'll be very clear, I'm obviously disappointed with the result. So, a gain of 357 seats according to this Nowcast projection would see Reform with a majority, with 362 seats, way ahead of Labour, who'd be left with just 92. 92? Fuck me running, 92? Okay, so in terms of seats, worst ever seat loss for Labour was, of course, Gordon Brown's 91. That was in the 2010 general election, so Labour would have just 1 seat more than what was considered the worst. Oh my goodness, that is 319 seats. It just totally eclipses that, dwarfs it almost 4 times over, 3.5 times over. Wow. So yeah, it's a long way away again, but so they'd have just 9 more than Lib Dem, who'd be on 83. Let's just look at that on the map. And you can see the, again, SNP more or less taking control in Scotland. But just going from the colours there, it looks once again as though, believe it or not, the Tories would end up with more seats in Scotland than Labour. I can only see 2 as the bigger red blob. Sorry, I'm not sure which constituencies these are off the top of my head. 2 for Labour, and let's 1, 2, at least 3 for the Tories. As well as how shockingly bad Labour are, as well as how shockingly bad the Tories were, as well as how shockingly bad Keir Starmer is as a leader, and how shockingly bad neoliberalism is as a political ideology. It also goes to show how the Greens really have to get moving when you consider that they're more or less, in terms of seats, on an even keel with Reform at the moment. Greens on 4 seats, Reform on 5 seats, but Reform clearly set to like stride way ahead. And again, it goes down to this connection with the so-called working person, you know, the so-called common man, common woman, they, them, the comrades. And they seem to be getting away with it. By being snake oil merchants. Obviously the Green Party are telling the truth, it's just the way that they're doing it. And maybe if Polanski wins the leadership race, he might breathe a bit more energy, a bit more life into their messaging, and bring a few more people on board. Because it's been said recently that these certainly seem far too briefcasey. The current leadership of Adrian Ramsey and Carla Denyer. Now, obviously, Denyer's stood down, but Ramsey's going to be having another pop at it. I mean, otherwise they've really got to see this as a massive the next few years are crucial, otherwise it's a massive missed opportunity for them. And, you know, for the left in general, I guess, whilst the iron is hot, so to speak, whilst Starmer is so abysmally unpopular, who'd have thought that anyone could get less popular than the Conservative Party in such a short amount of time, but here we are. They, for the record, would, wow, jettison another 98 seats, leaving them on just 23, so that would more or less be the death of the Conservative Party as a political, I don't know, what do you want to call it, main player, powerhouse, I don't want to say power, a titan. Now, I mentioned big changes are needed in politics, going back to what we were saying about citizens' assemblies, people's assemblies earlier, and the need for a true House of the People. One thing that is certainly happening in front of our very eyes is the two-party system is dissolving as we speak. The concept that it is just between the Tories and Labour. I've had to point this out so many times over the years in the run-up to elections, you know. It isn't a binary choice. Whoever people vote for the most will win the election. That's how elections work. The day before the polls open, other than postal voting, not a single one has been cast, you know, so it's certainly not the case that you walk into that box, that booth, and think that you've only got a binary choice. And now people are exercising the right to vote for whoever they want. And that's good to see, but unfortunately, you know, it's in the wrong direction. It's almost ironic, you know, if looking at it on a more macro scale, just with the sort of messaging that I put out there, paraphrasing, but it, you know, along the lines of, vote for someone else. It's like, no, not like that. Oh, you mean vote for the same but worse? It's like, yeah. How are people so gullible? That's one thing that constantly, you know, embarrasses me. It's an embarrassment. It's a national embarrassment just how gullible a lot of the voting public are. Well, I like Farage because he said he's going to do this, and we've really got to sort out the immigration issues, haven't we? Have you seen some clips of that? It might have been from their conference or a rally or something, and a couple of Reform voters there. It might have been around the time of the local elections, I can't remember. They're getting interviewed and asked what it is that they like, and they just literally almost regurgitate in verbatim like the worst Daily Mail headlines, the worst Telegraph headlines that you could ever think of. And they're all sort of looking at each other like they don't know which is the real answer. No, I guess the real answer is that they're gullible. That word isn't in the dictionary, by the way, if you want to check it out. But they somehow sound absolutely certain, set in the ways, you know. They never like, oh, well, you know, we might consider this. They're like, no, we're definitely voting for reform. They never read a history book. So the writing's on the wall there. The writing's on the wall. The question is where we're going to move to. Which, you know, are you going to live in Farage's Britain? Should it come to that? Or let's say that there's still the sort of, you know, barrier. Because despite polls like this, apparently, on individual topics, specifically who would be a better Prime Minister, apparently at the moment, Starmer is still ahead in those polls. But on the whole, you see these kind of projections and it makes you think, what if they put someone else up as the leader who could obviously get through that barrier that Farage creates with his reputation, with his image? There are some people who just are literally put off by mere mention of his name. Myself included, obviously. But that doesn't mean that I'd consider voting for them if it was Richard Tice instead, or one of the other fucking ghouls that they've got. You know, wild horses couldn't drag me into a voting booth to put a cross next to reform. So that also means we've got 4 years to educate, 4 years to inform, and 4 years to call out Nigel Farage, to call out Richard Tyson, the bullshit neoconservative trash that we're going to get. Let me know what you think about that in the chat, people. You'll also pick up some XP, perhaps you could get to number 1. In fact, we've got a new leader again, Mobius. So it's a lot more competitive now. Yeah, if you're watching back later on, let me know what you think about this as well as all the other topics I've mentioned so far in the comments. If you want to help support the channel, if you're watching back later, super thanks are available, and there's a buy me a coffee page in the description of the live stream. Please make sure you've hit thumbs up as well. And I'll just move on to one quick other thing, because it's gone midnight now, people, and I have to be up early for obvious reasons, which I vaguely mentioned earlier. Just wanted your thoughts about this, people. It's a quick reminder. You might be familiar with this story as well. It's a couple of days old now, but just my 2 cents about Sadiq Khan has called for cannabis law reform. And this is about, basically, I won't read through the article. in its entirety. Decriminalising possession of small amounts, and we've seen a lot of disproportionate stop and search, for example, with minority communities, with black and brown communities particularly being targeted by the Met Police in London with stop and search. The Met using the excuse of the aroma of the cannabis, apparently, allegedly, to do a lot of these stop and searches. So Sadiq Khan thinks the Met could be doing better things with the time, and has basically called for, so the report has 42 recommendations, including removing natural cannabis from the Misuse of Drugs Act. By continuing to have possession as a crime meant continuing to have problems between the police and ethnic communities, said Lord Faulkner. But Angela Rayner's having none of it, apparently. I won't do the voice, but she says it's not the government's position. They're not going to be changing the policy, basically. It goes back to the classic old-fashioned stereotype, whichever group of individuals they want to discriminate against. Oh look, what's this? Oh, it's evidence. Look, you're in possession of whatever. We know that there have been cases of that in the past, and this is just a sort of another twist, unfortunately. Police forces like the Met do have a reputation for things like that, and worse. Certainly also a reputation for systemic, we're not just talking about a few bad apples here, but systemic misogyny and racism as well. That's Lord Faulkner there, who chaired the reports. So other recommendations were to improve public health services for related harm, including better treatment, access and coordination, enhanced education, support fair access, including addressing cost barriers and expanding research, and to monitor international developments, reassess the case for broader legislation in 5 years. Now, you could debate over who would generally be seen as more progressive politically between ourselves and the United States of America, but they certainly have decriminalised in several states already, so there's certainly that difference. One thing, one stat I heard that's funny, apparently in the in the states where it is decriminalised, there definitely seems to be a sociological pattern that the crime rate goes down, for example, but also apparently ice cream sales tend to rocket, and setting up an ice cream parlour around from or in the vicinity of one of these sort of cafes might be a sound business venture if you want some top capitalist advice here on My Left Eye, a channel all about politics and society from a left-wing perspective. Yes, this channel gets top marks. That's with an X. What do you think about this, people? It's normally an issue that, like, you could say puts the cat amongst the pigeons. I'd have to say I agree with it. I think the police could be doing a lot better things with the time. There's a picture just, so that's not his garage or anything, it's from a trip to a legal farm in Los Angeles in 2022. and he doesn't know what to do with his arms, apparently, but there you go. Doc, you're not a number. No. Yeah, never forget that. That's another point there. Yeah, Andy Carter frees up the justice system and brings in tax. That's certainly what happened in the States as well. Obviously, per capita, it's got the highest prison population in the world by far, and a big part of that is, again, ethnic minorities on minor possession charges. Here in the UK, had to slash prison sentences for some offenders by a third to free up space. Again, the warning is out that they're going to be full unless something gets done. There are other ways around it as well, so I guess it looks as though we're almost all in agreement there. Ian, that's a good point. You know, you look at alcohol comparatively, it's kind of crazy. I think here in the UK, I can't remember the exact year that it became that it was put into law. But just take a look at the original recipes for certain carbonated soft drinks, unfortunately popular, that may or may not be being boycotted at the moment for people who support Palestine. You know what I'm getting at? That's kind of weird. And more, that's another good point. They don't want to be labelled as soft on crime by the tabloid press, which, you know, they certainly would. Okay, people, just reminder that would love to get your suggestions for the next, I should say, volume of the Brews at 10, the album, and a reminder of what you can catch on volume 8.
Do you like a hot tasty beverage with your music? Then my left eye has got a treat for your ears. The Brews at 10, the album, all your favourite beverage-based hits from the 1960s to now, all in one place.
Volume 8 is now available, featuring Teenage Riot, Sonic Youth, Brew Really Got Me, The Kinks, Fight for Your Right to Party, Beastie Boys, T-Bird, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Hey Brood, The Beatles, plus many more. Order now.
But yeah, thank you very much for your suggestions. Keep them coming in. There's some really good ones on the last live stream as well. If you're watching back later on, put them in the comments, please. Just staying with something a bit more light-hearted as well before we go. It's Old But Gold. This is another classic Exploding Heads that sort of refers to something we talked about recently, which was Gary Lineker's departure from the BBC over speaking out about Gaza. So this is a classic Colin from Portsmouth, Exploding Heads.
Colin from Portsmouth is on the line. Hello.
I'm sick of all these woke people ruining this country.
Who are the woke people, Colin? Who are they?
Who are the woke people?
Yeah.
You know full well who the woke people are. I've got the list right here.
You've got a list?
Yeah. The Guardian.
Right.
Pronouns. The lawyers. Teachers. Doctors. Nurses. The EU. The NHS. The church. The British Army nowadays. The BBC. Match of the Day.
Yeah.
Gary bloody Lineker. James O'Bleeding Bryant. Disney. Pride. Police cars with inclusive signage. Hollywood. The City of Liverpool.
The City
North London townhouses. Jordan Henderson. Pre-2023.
Yeah.
The National Trust. Almond milk. Modern historians. Remote working. Places where people feel safe. The weather. Children's books. The England cricket team. The menopause. Banksy. Coots Bank. Breastfeeding. Butterflies. People who want to be paid a living wage.
Right.
People who think their children should eat.
Yeah.
Universities. Secondary schools. Nursery schools. Being able to swim in UK waters.
Yeah.
Kettle chips. Valentine's Day. King Prince Charles. David Attenborough. Professor Brian Cox and the laws of physics. Guide dogs. Theatre with a live sign language person at the side of the stage.
Oh, yeah. Agreed.
Immigration centres that put pictures on their walls. Sadiq Khan. International Women's Day. The
Sadiq Khan
RNLI.
as well.
Croissants. People who read stories while wearing women's clothes. Every one of those is a threat to Western civilization. Anyway, mate, thanks for having me on. Love to the family.
Love to the family, Colin. Love to the family.
Avocados!
Yep.
Exploding Heads. Marvellous. All but gold. I think that's from a couple of years ago, that one. But still relevant today in a lot of ways. You know, you mentioned Sadiq Khan there as well as Gary Lineker. What was the other one? Coots Bank. Although we have criticised that ourselves this evening. Alright people, it's been a bit of a long one. Look at this, it's 25 past midnight. I really do have to get my head down because it's got to be up again early in the morning. I'll be off into Manchester bringing you some more footage on Sunday. Have to say, massive shout out to the members before I leave you. I'll quickly look for a raid, although unless anyone in the States is streaming at the moment, I'm not sure there will be given the time. But thank you very much people, really do appreciate your support with memberships on 111 now. Really good to extend that record. Solidari-Tea. Yeah, we'll see who's streaming here. Just two upcoming ones, so just see when this. Oh no, that's already been and gone. That's a few days ago. So Rathbone. So no raid. Apparently, I've stayed on the latest out of YouTube. Okay people, so yes, that will be all from me. Thanks a lot for sticking it out with me. I know it was a long stream tonight, almost 2.5 hours, but awesome viewers, awesome audience. I'll be back with you on the Sunday live stream, of course. Keep an eye out for notifications, and I'll have, as I said, exclusive content and stuff. But enjoy your weekends people, take care. My Lefty, I'll be seeing you soon. Free Palestine, power to the people.